Hello there, good evening. Welcome to Look North on the programme tonight. A man goes on trial after the death of a woman and her young daughter on a busy road in Leeds. We'll have the latest from court. Also tonight, the challenges facing blind and partially sighted people on the railways. A survey finds more than half are worried about being stranded at stations.
Why should my experience have to take days of thinking about it and hours of extra planning when most people can just hop on a train?
From the snow to grass, we're back at an old training ground for British skiers. And we meet Ella, the Halifax singer-songwriter, making waves with her new debut album.
The relentlessly cloudy and wet weather looks set to continue for the next few days, but there is a hint of a change by the time we get to next weekend. Join me for the very latest forecast.
Hello there, good evening. You're watching the first Look North of the week. I hope you had a lovely weekend. A jury has heard how a young mum and her daughter were killed walking to nursery in Leeds when they were hit by a speeding car. Justina Hillsborough was 27 and 4-year-old Lena Sepzor. They were struck by an Audi TT, which the prosecution say was racing a BMW car. Jas Kamal Riat faces 2 counts of causing death by dangerous driving, which he denies. Phil Butler reports.
The aftermath of an horrific car crash which claimed the life of a young mother and her 4-year-old girl. Justina Hillsborough, who was 27, and her daughter Lena Sepzor were killed outright after being struck by a white Audi TT in January 2023 while on their way to nursery. Today at Leeds Crown Court, Jas Kamal Riat, who was driving a grey BMW on the day of the crash, went on trial accused of causing death by dangerous driving. The jury heard the driver of the Audi, Hardy Baku from Leeds, has previously admitted 2 counts of causing death by dangerous driving. The prosecution claims the 2 men are jointly responsible for the deaths, as both vehicles were being driven dangerously in the minutes leading up to the crash. For the Crown, Miss Carmel Pearson told the court both cars were seen weaving in and out of traffic in front of other road users. Eyewitnesses, she said, claim both vehicles were seen racing along the road into the city from Potter Newton Lane to Scott Hall Road. The prosecution alleges the defendant was engaged in competitive and dangerous driving, which they claim caused the deaths of a mother and child standing on the pavement. The jury was shown dashcam footage and CCTV of the cars in the lead up to the crash. Giving evidence, eyewitnesses described seeing the Audi and BMW side by side, waiting at traffic lights before setting off at speed. Another witness described how he noticed the Audi because of the speed at that time of the morning in rush hour traffic. He said it was out of the ordinary. They were both at the traffic lights. I remember them setting off at speed. The Audi went first. They were weaving in and out of the traffic, braking hard for the speed cameras. The court was told Mr. Riat did not report the incident to police. Miss Pearson said what happened on that morning was an unthinkable tragedy. The prosecution maintains just because the BMW did not strike the pedestrians, it does not make the driver less responsible for what happened. Mr. Riat denies the charges. The trial continues. Phil Bottomer, BBC Look North, Leeds.
Next tonight, more than half of blind and partially sighted people are worried about being stranded during train journeys because of inaccessible stations and the unpredictability of passenger assistance. That's according to new research from the Royal National Institute of Blind People, which also found that 82% face difficulty with the gap between the train and the platform edge. Our reporter Kit Taylor has been speaking to visually impaired passengers in West Yorkshire.
Arriving into Horsforth station, this is Harry. He's visually impaired and travels by train every week, but he's given up on booking assistance for local stations because he finds it so unreliable.
These are difficult environments to be in if you're blind. There's no announcements here. I didn't know that the station was manned. No one's ever offered to help me. These are everyday normal activities that millions of people do every week. Why can't I do the same?
Once he's on board, the issues continue.
At that point, it becomes somewhat scary because I'm stood in the middle of a carriage, obviously very vulnerable, not really sure if there's a free seat anywhere, with no one to help me.
But Harry isn't alone. New figures from the RNIB show that 79% of blind and partially sighted people struggle to find a seat, while more than half struggle to find a toilet. But safety is the biggest issue, with the gap between the train and the platform proving worrying.
The gap in some stations, that it can be huge, and in others it's not, so you don't know what to expect. I do know of other people who say guide dog owners who where their guide dogs not managed to make the gap and fallen, down the gap, and that's been very distressing for them, but also for the guide dog itself as well.
Chloe and her guide dog Desi are also hoping for change.
I was born with mild cerebral palsy, so I've always had a physical disability. I then started to lose my sight at the age of 18 and became very dependent on public transport as a way to get around.
Chloe has spent years calling for tactile paving to be added to her local station in Menston. Now, with government funding through the Access for All scheme, the paving is finally being built.
There's a lot of stations across the UK that need the Access for All scheme to come and do what we're doing here at Menston. And we've seen the accessibility roadmap that the government released recently that commits to Access for All. We want to get to a place where every line is fully step-free and people can travel without these barriers.
It's really nice to see that it's going to become a much safer space. It's just a shame it's taken so long.
Network Rail have said we're committed to making the railway accessible for all our passengers and recognise there is more work to do. Kit Taylor, BBC Look North, Leeds.
Earlier I spoke to Emma Vogelman from the charity Transport for All, and I asked if the changes being made are enough and if they're happening fast enough.
Well, what we would really like to see at Transport for All is for the government and for everyone to really use the Railways Bill as an opportunity to get accessibility right when it comes to the railways, because right now the rate of change estimated by the Disabled People's Transport Advisory Committee have said that the current rate of change could take 100 years before every station is step-free.
Gosh, according to research, less than 50% of blind or partially sighted people said that they would be met by assistance that they booked. Does this surprise you?
To be honest, assistance is one of the biggest barriers that disabled people can experience, and that could be with it not being there when you just turn up and go and want to travel spontaneously, or even when you book it in advance. There's no guarantee that assistance will be there, but without that assistance, disabled people simply just cannot use the railway.
As you mentioned before, you are working with Great British Rail to try and improve the system during its development. What would be simple steps to make a huge improvement for you?
What disabled people really need are enforceable standards and enforceable markers that companies need to prioritize when it comes to accessibility. We've seen so much of accessibility be put in things like guidance or things that you can't enforce. And that's where disabled people are really being let down. So with Great British Rail, we have the opportunity to embed transport accessibility into the very, very foundation of Great British Rail.
Emma Vogelman, thanks for your time. You're watching Monday's Look North, still to come on tonight's programme. As fields and roads flood in parts of South Yorkshire, we'll find out why we've had so much rain. The parents of two teenage girls who died in the Hillsborough disaster launched a new campaign at the House of Lords today. Victoria and Sarah Hicks were among 97 Liverpool fans who were killed. Court records show they were unconscious within seconds and died within minutes, despite overwhelming evidence from subsequent inquiries showing that that was not true. Today, their parents addressed a parliamentary event at Westminster, bringing together MPs, peers and legal experts to examine how the law can correct historical judicial records.
And there's a very simple way for the record to be put straight, and that's what's called a statement in open court. and it would involve South Yorkshire Police standing up, giving a statement to say, look, we were wrong before and we'd like to put it right, and obviously that would then work its way through the system and correct the injustice.
Yeah.
But they're declining to take that route.
And the excuse they're giving is that it's not worth the court time.
South Yorkshire's Police Chief Constable Lauren Poultney said that the force would take the steps available to them to support the families in achieving a sense of justice. Next night, strikes by laboratory workers at a West Yorkshire hospital are set to continue. Unite Union says members of the microbiology department at Airedale Hospital are underpaid while facing increased workloads. Airedale NHS Trust has previously said it has contingency plans in place to minimise disruption. Now, the rain has felt relentless for many of us over the past few weeks, hasn't it? And today it's brought flooding along the River Don. These are the pictures taken in Banby Dun, just outside Doncaster. Several acres of fields are underwater and some roads and bridges over the river have been closed. However, it doesn't seem that properties have been threatened by floodwater yet. A little further downstream is Fish Lake, which you may remember flooded in 2019. Volunteer flood wardens there have kept a close eye on river levels on behalf of the villagers.
Because they can remember 2019 and how difficult it was and the damage to homes and so on, then they get to the stage where they're worried it might happen again. Now, I don't think any of the flood wardens have got to that stage this time because we expected the rain that was exactly forecast, and it's risen and dropped significantly since then, which is great.
Paul joins us. You've been in warmer climates, Paul, but here we have had relentless rain for what feels like weeks now, but surprisingly, no flooding.
That's right. I mean, it has been a relentlessly bad winter from a rainfall point of view. I've got some really interesting statistics though, because remember, winter begins on December the 1st, so we're 70 days in to winter, and up until including today at Sheffield Western Park we've had 230 millimetres. That is actually only just above normal. And what that tells you is that a lot of the rain that we've had, it has been relentless, but it's not been heavy enough to spark widespread river flooding. So that's the reason why we haven't seen major problems across the region.
And why are we seeing so much rain? Why are we stuck in this pattern?
Well, the atmosphere has been blocked for weeks. That's why we've had this weather. We can link it all back to the Arctic. The Arctic is warming 4 times faster than anywhere else on Earth. That disrupts what we call the polar vortex. That shoved cold air southwards across America and across Eastern Europe and Russia. And the knock-on effect of that is that low pressure in the Atlantic and just off the UK has just been stuck. It's not been able to shift itself, and that's why we've had weeks and weeks of this, what is awful weather.
And we'll have to wait until the end of the programme to find out if it's going to stop.
Wow, how exciting.
If he says so, eh? We have the sport now, and I'm wondering... Oh, no, we're not. We've got the news app. We'll come to sport in a moment. I'm eager, aren't I? Let's have a look at some of the stories from around the region on the BBC News app. It's worth waiting for, I promise. A man and a woman have been arrested in Doncaster after an XL bully dog bit their newborn baby during a first introduction, according to police. A man has been arrested in connection with the theft of the Mayor of Dewsbury's ceremonial chain in a burglary at the town hall. And should a future Olympic Games come to the north of England, our political leaders believe it should, and they hope the government will agree with them. And you can get more details on those stories and everything else that's happening in our region by downloading the BBC News app. Now it's time for the sport with Ollie. And I was going to say, Ollie, has any of this rain impacted games?
No, thankfully not just yet, but we'll keep an eye on it because who knows, waterlogged pitches, it's that time of year for it, isn't it? But it has been a record-breaking weekend for some of our teams and players, and some records you wouldn't want to. We'll come to those in a minute. And Sheffield United play tonight, but first let's get a football roundup of some of the games that happened across the weekend. Weekend's results meaning Leeds are now 6 points clear. In the Championship, Sheffield Wednesday have set an unwanted record by going 9 straight league games without scoring for the first time in their history after losing 4-0 to Swansea. The Owls remain bottom. League One and Huddersfield Town managed a 2-2 draw after a late comeback. Elsewhere, Bradford lost 2-1 to Luton but remain in the playoffs. Bolton beat Barnsley 3-2. Doncaster were battered 4-0 by Wycombe and now teeter just above the relegation places, while Rotherham lost 3-0 to Cardiff. And in League Two, Chesterfield's game with Bristol Rovers was a cracker, with this goal from James Berry winning it for the Spireites. It finished 3-2 with Town 8th in the table, 1 point and 1 place off the playoffs. And special mention to Harrogate Town, bottom of the table, but won their first league game since September. They beat Cambridge 2-1 and ended their 20-game wait for a win. Oh, well done to them. Still bottom of the table though. Who knows, maybe they will just about escape it. Well, tonight Sheffield United are set to take on Middlesbrough as the Blades look to pull away from the Championship relegation places. Borough are second and could go top with a win, but United boss Chris Wilder is keeping focused on his side.
We've shown a level of consistency over the last 15 games. You know, our home form has been good, creating chances, XG for and against has been pretty positive. But always on to the next game.
And that game is live on BBC Radio Sheffield. In Rugby League, and it was Challenge Cup weekend. Bradford Bulls beat London Broncos 26 points to 8, with fellow Super League side Wakefield Trinity beating Swinton Lions 82-6. Wins 2 for Huddersfield Giants, Leeds Rhinos, York Knights and Keighley Cougars. Castleford Tigers beat Doncaster, and losses for Sheffield Eagles, Batley Bulldogs, Dewsbury Rams, Halifax Panthers and Lock Lane ARLFC. Well, the draw for the next round is taking place right now. Fixtures will be posted on the BBC Sport website. Now, in darts, and Doncaster's 22-year-old star, Bo Greaves, has started the PDC Women's Series in Germany by winning her 113th match in a row. It means she hasn't lost on the circuit since April 2025. She makes history, having now won 17 consecutive Women's Series titles. In ice hockey, and the Sheffield Steelers secured a 4-point weekend with a 9-0 win over the Dundee Stars. Netminder Matt Greenfield recorded the 24th shutout of his Steelers career, while captain Robert Dowd became the first player in Elite League history to score 400 goals, an unbelievable achievement. That's all your sport, Amy.
Thank you. Have you been to a Steelers match?
I have. Great fun.
They are really good fun,
Whoosh.
Great for the family.
That's what all their fans do.
Yeah,
Lay 'em away.
whoosh. Thank you, Ollie. Well, keeping whoosh in mind and great fun for the family, the Winter Olympics are well underway with sports like curling and skiing all over the TV at the moment. We were watching it last night, glued. But in the 80s, things were, well, very different for our athletes. Take a look at this. Outside of the competition, British skiers would take part in a niche sport called grass skiing. Yes, really, in places like Rotherham. Simon Thaker can explain more.
Martin Bell, Great Britain.
Martin was one of the best in the world.
Skied quite well here in the first race.
He competed at multiple Winter Olympics through the 80s and 90s. But when the winter season was over, he and his fellow Olympian brother Graham could still keep fit, taking part in grass skiing.
We were challenging for the best in the world in snow skiing, but grass skiing was still a lot of fun, so we went and did it.
Rother Valley Country Park in South Yorkshire played host to many grass skiing events, including the British Championships. This archive from BBC Look North showed some of the top skiers of the day.
A lot of other people ski on artificial slopes in the summer, and I do too, but this is just a little bit different again. We're using different kind of skis, but it's basically the same technique.
The skis looked like this, rotating caterpillar tracks, and some skiers could reach speeds of up to 50 miles per hour.
I think they were in around somewhere.
Student Paul was a local skier who took on the best in the world on grass races in Rotherham.
It was great to ski and to race against them. I mean, they were really stronger and fitter because they got the whole winter.
He even beat Olympians like the Bell brothers.
If you were grass ski, it was a good way of training. It gave them racing in a good atmosphere that was sort of cutthroat from the start gate to the finish gate.
Buried deep in his garage in Sheffield, he could never quite bring himself to throw the skis away. It may be over 30 years since he last put them on,
a bit of a walk up the hill. But on a cold, wet afternoon in a park in Sheffield, one skier couldn't resist one final go. It might not be the Winter Olympics, but for Paul, it's everything. Simon Fake, BBC Look North, Sheffield.
Still got it, hasn't he? He looks great fun, does that? It's more like mud skiing at the moment, isn't it? Next tonight, Halifax singer Ella released her debut album on Friday, and her current single, Dream of Mine, has been playing on BBC Radio 2 and 6 Music. Daughter of Embrace member Richard, Ella has a busy year of touring ahead of her. She popped in to chat with me earlier today, but first let's have a look at her in action, shall we? So there's a little flavour of a song from Ella's debut album, At Home in My Mind. Lovely to see you, Ella. Tell us about this, because this is a labour of love, isn't it?
This album has been something I've been collecting over the last few years. It's all about me and who I am and my identity, and just I've kind of found myself through writing and creating this album. It's been really nice.
Now, we have to mention your dad, Rick, from the band Embrace, who many of our viewers will know. How much has that influenced you in your songwriting, growing up with that?
I mean, it's definitely had a massive influence because, I mean, he's a great songwriter and he definitely has taught me some very wise lessons about songwriting, and I look up to him a lot.
Yeah, and do you do any writing together?
We used to, yeah. When I was younger, I used to love writing with him. We wrote together quite a lot in lockdown, actually. But yeah, he's a great inspiration.
Yeah, and what about living and growing up in Calderdale? How has that sort of inspired you?
I think being from Yorkshire is such a big part of my identity. I think it's such a beautiful and amazing place, and it's somewhere that I hold very close to my heart, and I don't think I could ever leave.
No, well, me neither. I'm thrilled to see that you've got vinyls, and not only that, I don't know if at home you can see this, not only do they look fabulous, but they smell of flowers. Is this a new thing, having scented vinyls?
Yeah, I want it. Well, the title is At Home in My Mind, and I wanted it to smell like fresh linen.
Oh,
like
they do. They definitely do.
So yeah, it was just something I wanted to try, and it smells great.
It does smell great. And as a musician, how important is it to have something that's tangible when everything is online now?
I think it's so important because it feels like an achievement to kind of sit there and see a physical copy of the thing that you've made. And I think as well, like listening to albums front to back it's so nice to kind of hear how they were imagined by an artist and things like that. So it was important to me to be able to do physical copies of it.
Well, Ella, it's lovely to meet you. Best of luck with the album, and we look forward to seeing you performing.
Thank you.
And Ella will be playing us out at the end of the programme. But first, please, Paul, tell us, you brought the sunshine home with you?
I certainly did not, no. It's, we're going to have a sunny day on Saturday, I think, but more relentless cloud and rain to come this week. So the bringer of glad tidings. There's been some brightness there in Scarborough. Look at that, a bit of blue sky taken there earlier today, and no more blue sky pictures, but I did spot this picture in Pickering, and the daffodils are looking very nice indeed, quite early for them. But I suppose it has been quite mild, or relatively mild. If you've got any pictures you'd like to send in to me, the addresses are on your screen right now on X, on Instagram and the Weather Watcher website. So you guessed it, tomorrow's going to be another cloudy day. There will be some rain and drizzle around at times. Low pressure totally dominating one weather front after another this week. The rain doesn't look particularly heavy, which is good news. And in fact, big changes coming later in the week. We'll get a much colder northerly by Friday. The rain clearing away southwards may well turn a bit wintry over the hills, and that leaves a changeable weekend. But Saturday at the moment does look quite sunny. Now there's a radar picture. The next system actually is not going to reach us. It's going to break up and push into France. So really we left this evening and overnight with a familiar story, cloudy. There'll be a little patchy rain and drizzle in places where, especially over the hills, where there could well be some mist and low cloud, but it is frost free. We're looking at lowest temperatures down to 5 or 6 degrees. Tomorrow's high water times then, Scarborough 9:37. Bridlington at 10:14. So another mostly cloudy day, and there will be some patchy occasional light rain and drizzle just moving up from the south. It's not going to rain all day long. There will be some drier spells in between those areas of rain and drizzle. The wind remains in the east of the southeast. My goodness, if you live along the coast, it's been like that for weeks. Temperatures in Scarborough 7, maybe 8 or 9, slightly above average for this time of the year. The further outlook for Tuesday through to Friday is more of the same. There's that dip in temperatures on Friday and maybe a bit of wintry stuff over the hills. And then the weekend, Saturday sunny, rain and sleet on Sunday. But next week looks a lot more changeable with a west to southwesterly by then. That's the forecast.
Yes, hope for parents ahead of half term. Thanks for that, Paul. Well, that is it from us. I will be back on the late news at 10:30. But playing us out now is Ella with Dream of Mine. Bye-bye for now.
You took me out to dinner, we were sinking the wine. We're talking about the families, all the kids you'd like. But I'm running for the chaos to be seen under the lights. You wonder where we fit into this dream of mine. I'll be playing the piano till the end of time. And you always remind me that's the thing that caught you right. So if you're pointing fingers at the telltale signs, I'll say, are you coming with me or are you leaving me behind? I'll wait for you to tell me it's me until you die, 'cause I can't live in the shadows for the rest of my life. When things are getting real, I just get terrified. That's why I disappear into this dream of mine, dream of mine. Want us to live here in this dream of mine. Couple of kids run with us down the line, laughing about this at the dizzy heights. You're in the crowd and I can see you smile. You're in the crowd and I can see you smile. You're in the crowd and I can see you smile.